Hi, and welcome back to the Mind of the Writer. So today's video is going to be a little bit different because I'm going to talk about my personal journey, or at least parts of it, to kind of give you an idea of how I even got to the point where I had the confidence to write romantically and to write the way that I do, to write explicitly, because I think that this could be, for some people, a big factor when it comes to losing that inhibition on paper and or on screen and writing in that way. For some people, maybe it's not a big issue, but it was for me. And I think that when you are writing that way, or even when you're writing at all, to be quite honest, you need to come to a point where you're confident and you don't care what other people think, at least in that first sweep of writing. I do think it's important to have an editor. I think it's important to go through the filters to get people to read your work, to get feedback. I don't think that I think that it is important to have that weigh-in of readers, professional and non-professional, because that's how you improve. That's how you you better your work. But for the first draft, I think that just writing and writing freely can still be it's a really big deal because you're afraid of what people might think, or at least I was. So I wanted to share some of the things that I did in my process to get that confidence, because it was a really long journey for me. So 4 or 5 years ago, I decided, as part of my efforts to fight the fear, that I would write this serial novel as publicly as one could write a serial novel. I mean, it's hard to write in public, but I created a website. The website is still in existence. You can go and check it out, The Girl on Harlow Street. And I would upload chapters and behind the scenes articles every week, and people could follow the development of that novel. Now, it wasn't exactly immediate, because what I did is when I created say 120-page installments, I would send them to a lawyer. He would quickly read through them, get back to me, and then I would start to put them online. I just wanted that other professional reader in there, because I knew that I was sharing my creative work publicly, and I wanted to get a legal green light before I did that. So my rule for myself was, I am going to put what is in my mind out there in the world, and this is unedited and uncensored. And this, for me, had sort of many parts to it, but the main parts were, I want to get the job done. I want to be accountable to readers, because it's so easy to sort of push projects under the bed and get, distracted by, family demands. And this has happened to me before, where, I had to do some really heavy duty parenting, and I had to, I wasn't able to continue with my projects. And so I wanted to create this, again, a scaffolding which held me accountable to the process. And so knowing that people were reading and waiting for installments really kept me on task. And I only had 8 regular readers, but I did have, periods where readers would, read sections in different countries in the world. And so I had readers, and I, and that was my rule. No matter what is in your brain, you're going to put it out there, and you're going to fight the fear. And also you'll get the job done. And it was a way of getting the job done. But beyond that, I myself had lots of inner voices holding me back from my past. And so I had therapy. And, therapy for everything, therapy for life, for my current life. But one of the main roles of therapy for me was to dismantle all of those voices imposed, developed by myself on, you can't do this, you'll never be able to do that, it's too risky to do that, you know, you shouldn't do this. And I had to do a lot of personal work to get rid of all of those inhibitions and voices that were holding me back from writing. I'm going to say my truth. You know, I mean, fiction is fiction, but when you are pumping that fiction full of emotion, raw emotion, and sexual energy as well, if you're writing that type of scene, um, there's a certain honesty in there, and you are vulnerable when you're writing. But I had to get rid of all of those voices, or at least get them down to a bare minimum, in order to be able to be free of that and write. So therapy was key for me. Also, once I got through that first public draft on the website, and I was beginning to turn my mind on what to do next, and of course the next is Patreon, which is where this novel is running right now, I joined a, a group of creative people. Um, it's really a group of creative entrepreneurship. And I was part of this group for a year, and I cannot say enough how important that was to shift my mindset into, no, I can really do this. So I've fought my fears. I've dealt with all of that in therapy. I'm writing this novel in a public space, and that the website is out in the open and anyone can read as I'm writing the novel. But now I need another injection of confidence to take it further, and to be more vocal, and to be more public, and to be more honest, out in the open. And the creative entrepreneurship was key for that. The other thing that I have had to do is I've had to really, get to know myself. And I suppose that's all part of the therapy and the creative entrepreneurship group as well. But within, my own silence, to just sit with myself and think, well, what's important to you? So I'm a person who, for most of my life, have done what I feel is best. It's my choice, for others. And that is in my family of origin, and in my family, with my husband and my children. I've definitely, put others first. And so when you're doing that, you sometimes set aside, perhaps, or not even set aside, but you're so busy, doing what you feel is right for others, that you don't maybe think about, well, what do you want? Or you lose sight of what you want, in that dynamic. And so for me, I've had to spend a lot of time in introspection, in silence, in thinking, well, what do I want? So this work, it may seem that has nothing to do with writing a love scene, but I can tell you it has everything to do with writing a love scene, because I needed to get all of that psychological, I don't want to call it clutter. Uh, I think that all the negative voices, the you can't do this, or you won't able to do this, or who do you think you are, all of that stuff, that's clutter. We need to get that out of the way. I don't consider, my obligations to my family, as clutter. I consider those to be necessary. But once, I began to sit quietly and really think about what I want to say through my stories, um, then the story begins to have a draw and a pull, and it begins to have a weight that equally balances all those other things that are important to me in my life. And so I found that once I started to do that, and once I began to create space for my stories, once I began to have a really strong sense of self, or recovering a strong sense of self, that I was able to be completely free and sure of myself when it came to writing these love scenes, and also realize that that type of writing doesn't mean that everybody in your life all are going to run away. You know, the more that you are sure that what you are doing is right, and you know, and I find that when I am working on scenes like this, I am very focused on, I have the emotion, but it's like I said in the other video, it's also work. So it's a little bit of combination of sort of being in the zone, being in the Zen-like state, channeling the story, channeling the emotion. I definitely feel what I'm writing, but also at the same time as I'm doing that, being ultra focused on, as I said, you know, in a past video, on my word choices, on my use of punctuation, on how I'm presenting things, experimenting with different characters, and with all of those other components worked in, it kind of builds on itself. The more you do it, the more comfortable you are with it, the less you feel that that type of writing could be a threat to the other people in your life. And yeah, so that's my journey. And now, um, from a creative perspective, I feel a lot stronger than I did, you know, 20 years ago, when I was just starting out. So the more confident you are, the less inhibited you are, the more grounded in yourself that you are, and you more sure of yourself that you are. And all of that for me was done through, you know, therapy, introspection, a lot of research on YouTube, and a lot of reading on my own, and the creative entrepreneur group, for sure. Can't say enough about that. You know, being connected to other writers, all of that um, is key work in order to create the psychological space and the psychological confidence to write explicitly and then share that work in public. And what else do I want to say about this? I think another thing that I've come to the conclusion of on this is that we give our emotions and our energy to our stories, but we are not our stories. In other words, the characters that I'm creating, while they come through me or wherever they come from, and I still need to get to the bottom of that on the mind of the writer, they're not me. There is a separation, and so there almost has to be this sort of separation. This is really complicated because you are joined to your characters in a way. They're coming, they're flowing from you, but at the same time, what my characters do, I don't do. I'm writing them, they're coming through me. So if you take that scene of the lovers in the cathedral, I've never been in that situation. I don't intend to be in that situation. Those people are separate from me. And that in a way enables me, you know, to sort of carry on writing. And in some ways it's very freeing. So I hope that, you know, I hope that, you know, you find, I don't know, interesting, but you know, I've shared a little bit about my creative journey with you, and I hope that you find it helpful or interesting, or it resonates. And we will see you next week on The Mind of the Writer. Thanks for watching. Bye.